Hey everybody, I'm Bill. This is Zap right over there to my wherever that is. What's going on, Zap?
Howdy, man. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Today is October. No, it's not October. That's just an outright lie. Today is November 2nd, 2016, and this is episode 52 of Run Jump Stomp, a podcast about video games and other stuff that we really like. This week, we're going to be talking about No Codes for You.
All screenies, less fakies.
EA has locked an entire country out of Origin.
Wii U retired.
Valve has lost their keys.
No Man's Sky hacked.
Those stories and more on this episode of Run, Jump, Stomp. Stick around. All right, though, the first story today is, first off, just a funny story. Zap and I live on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean, and we're doing the episode a little early today for him, but normal time for me because apparently his country switches their clocks a week before mine, and I just find it ridiculous that our countries can't seem to, you know, in this great interconnected world, we can't all just say, hey, everybody, let's all switch at the same time, or let's all not switch at all. And I have a question for you, Zap.
Cool.
Do you think that the daylight savings time, the whole fiddling of the clocks, is something that we need to do, or do you think it should be tossed aside? I'm just curious.
I think it should be tossed aside. I sit there more confused when it comes to when you go to bed the day before you turn your clocks back, going, have I got an extra hour in bed, or do I lose an extra hour? And then like this evening, I literally was like, so I was like, hang on a minute, why is the podcast going live at 7 o'clock? It's not 8 o'clock. It's like, hang on a minute, the clocks have gone back, but I then got really confused, and I just sat there, I was like, yeah. So I just don't see the point. I really don't.
Well, there's a really interesting video about daylight savings time and stuff. It's from CGP Grey, who's an awesome YouTuber, and you guys should definitely check it out if you haven't. And it doesn't actually settle the argument of whether or not we should. But Eskimo Princess says Arizona does not participate. That's where your mom is now. I used to live in Arizona, and whenever I would call my mom back in New York, I would be like, okay, how many hours behind am I now? Because I couldn't ever remember. And then when I lived in Hawaii, I ran into the same problem because they also don't participate in daylight savings time. All that stuff, nonsense aside, let's get into
now your tomorrow morning's headlines tonight.
the headlines.
And here's what makes it really marvelous.
Oops, I just hit the wrong button. That's okay. I have to put in my age in order to look at this first story, which is a little ridiculous.
Are you old enough?
Yeah, am I old enough to go to Bethesda's website, basically? All right, so the first story is No Codes for You, and this is really short, so I'm actually going to read the whole thing. And this is Bethesda and Game Reviews. This is a post that Bethesda put on their website, and it says here, at Bethesda, we value media reviews. We read them, we watch them, we try to learn from them when they offer critique, and we understand their value to our players. Earlier this year, we released Doom. We sent review copies to arrive the day before launch, which led to speculation about the quality of the game. Since the Doom, I sound like an old man. Since then, Doom has emerged as a critical and commercial hit. And by the way, it's an awesome game. You should play it if you haven't. And is now one of the highest rated shooters of the past few years. With the upcoming launches of Skyrim Special Edition and Dishonored 2, we will continue our policy of sending media review copies one day before release, while we continue to work with the media, streamers, and YouTubers to support their coverage both before and after release. We want everyone, including those in the media, to experience our games at the same time. We also understand that some of you want to read reviews before you make your decision, and if that's the case, we encourage you to wait for your favorite reviewers to share their thoughts. And then they go on to talk about the release dates of their games. So, in the past, they and many other companies will send out a code so that the reviewers can download the games ahead of time and start writing the reviews under an NDA so that they can't disclose any information that they have until the NDA is lifted. The NDA is usually lifted the day before or the day of the game's release, and then they can put the reviews out for people to read. Well, they just said that, yeah, that's a really good point, Snow Goes Ham, and I'll talk about that in a second. What they just said is that from now on, they're only going to give out review copies the day before a game comes out, making it really difficult for a reviewer to get a decent handle on whether or not the game is good. So that means that people like me and you and everybody in chat, they don't get to, like, they can't benefit from the knowledge that a reviewer can give them. And a second ago in chat, Snow Goes Ham said this statement sort of contradicts itself. Everyone play at the same time and then wait for reviewers. So, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. So, anyway, Zap, what do you think about Bethesda's new policy where they're not going to send out review copies to people until the day before the game comes out?
I think Bethesda is stupid. That's pretty much my statement on this. I got 2 points on this. They say that they're not going to send review copies out. Fair enough. Okay, right. Doom is a very good point and a reason for them to go down this route. Doom, I haven't played it myself and want to play it, was a success. But I wait for reviews from certain reviewers like Angry Joe. I think he's very honest about his review. I wait for like the WTF series from Total Biscuit, because these guys give their honest opinion on the game that they're looking at. I don't really wait for GameSpot or IGN because I don't trust their reviews. Another one is Good Game. There's a program. I don't know if you've heard of it, Run Jump, but it's a program in Australia on ABC2, I think it is their network out there, and it's Good Game, and it's a half an hour segment of dedicated games, and they do reviews as well. And it's shown on YouTube, and it's very, very good. And again, it feels very, like, the reviews feel very honest. And I do think that finding an honest reviewer is very difficult in this day and age. But at the same time, I think Bethesda are kind of cutting themselves short, because, like a lot of most people, games in this day and age are not cheap. We're talking a lot of money for a game. Skyrim Special Edition, which they mention in this blog, if you like, state that, it's like £30 to buy, would be $40 odd for yourself. That's not cheap. The games themselves are not cheap. Dishonored is £40, $50, $60 for yourself. So again, it's not cheap gaming. And when you're putting that much money down, you want to know that what you're buying is a sound investment. You want to know that your money is going into a game that you can invest hundreds of hours, or if it's a 12, 13, 14-hour campaign, you want to know that you're getting your money's worth. And the best way to do that is have a reviewer give their honest, critical analysis of the game, because that's what they do. But the other point that I want to make on this is they're saying that they're not going to send these game codes out. But I know of a handful of YouTubers and streamers that have received an early copy to Skyrim Special Edition. So all of a sudden, they're saying that they don't want to give these games out, these codes out. But there are people out there that were streaming the Special Edition of Skyrim a week early.
Right. I think that what was happening there is they're saying, okay, they started this blog post with, at Bethesda, we value media reviews. When I read that, what I see in there is they're talking about IGN, they're talking about Kotaku, they're talking about things like that, like publications or websites. Yeah. They're not talking about personalities that you find on YouTube or Twitch or Beam. All right, so whatever place where people are posting their stuff, these guys are saying, they say we value media reviews. I think inherently that very first statement is just an outright lie, and they're saying they're just trying to cover their butts. They don't value it because they don't need it anymore. In chat, Snow Goes Ham made a really good point. He says, I feel like from making money, Bethesda knows it doesn't need reviews to hype up a game when it is such a large company that can build its own hype already. They don't need IGN or Kotaku or any other video game publication. I say publication, most people think like a magazine, but I'm talking like websites. They don't need those guys to help get the hype for Bethesda's games, because Bethesda has a built-in fan base, and when these games come out, people are going to buy them, and they know that they're going to buy them. Now, if you're looking at 100 people that buy it, maybe 40 of those people want to wait for a review before they buy it. Well, now that we know that they got to wait for a review, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, well, maybe half of those 40 are going to say, you know what, maybe I'll just buy it anyway, because it's probably pretty good. I like the last one or whatever it is. And so it feels like they're trying to put out a game and not have anybody have a chance to review it before people will buy it, because they know that people are going to pre-order the game no matter what. My biggest argument with this is that handing out a game code a week early to media reviewers, that doesn't, like, there's no downside to that unless your game is bad. Like, if your game is bad, you don't want reviews because the reviews are only going to hurt your game. If your game is bad, you don't want a demo because a demo is only going to hurt your game. If your game is good, you want reviews. You want demos. And the thing about Bethesda is, while they are famous for making really great games, their games are also have been notorious for being really buggy games. And because they're buggy, that usually hits them on the review, so that lowers their Metacritic score, which people take way too seriously. It lowers their Metacritic score, and then suddenly their number is not as high as it could have been if that review hadn't been released. So I think they're trying to stick it to reviewers and saying, you know what, screw you guys, we don't need you anymore. We're going to find the people who like us, and we're going to give them our review copy early. Like you said, people were streaming it a week ahead of time. I think that's what they're doing. They're handpicking the people who they think are going to give them the best feedback. These are also, and then I'm going to shut up in a second, these are also the same people. They don't write a review. They just play the game, and other people watch them play the game. There's no review written. Maybe you might see like a video on demand or something, or a VOD, but there's no score from, let's say Zap is one of these lucky people. He doesn't give it a score, so it doesn't figure into Metacritic. I think this is Bethesda fighting back against Metacritic.
But for me personally, though, I don't like it. That's just a personal thing, because of how much games cost, because of how much this industry is putting on the price of games. I want to know that what I'm putting. Now, I know that Bethesda put out great games. I adore Skyrim. I adore Oblivion. Haven't played Morrowind, but I know if I played Morrowind, I'd love it. I know that they didn't make the Elder Scrolls Online. That was ZeniMax. But, you know, it's all to do with that kind of universe. Dishonored 1, I need to give that more time. Doom, I need to play. They've made some really great games, and I understand it, and I know that. But when it comes to putting down that much money, I want to know that it's a sound investment. Maybe that's just me growing up a little bit. A few years ago, I would have just gone, well, it's Bethesda, I'll pay for it. and you kind of do you when it comes to a developer, you probably do the same thing. You do it with Nintendo. You trust that developer. You trust those guys, so you're willing to put that money down. But for me now, I'm a bit more cynical about it, where I see a game being released and I'm like, I want to make sure that my money is a sound investment, and that's where reviewers come in. I do get why Bethesda are doing it. I do understand, that the Snow Goes Ham in chat says, sadly, some of the bugs from vanilla Skyrim are still in the remastered edition, and they are talking about patching the sound quality of the remastered edition, because apparently it's still buggy like it was when vanilla Skyrim released. There's an unofficial mod patch done on the Skyrim mods for the special edition, which fixes bugs that Bethesda have released with the game. And Bethesda have kind of been known in the industry, as you said, they release great games, but they're a bit buggy. But for me, I kind of like reviewers saying, this is a great game, but it comes with these bugs, buy at risk, that kind of stuff. I know what I'm getting in my head then. So for me personally, I would like to see them continue going down with the review sector, but I also understand they don't need it.
Yeah, I didn't buy Batman Arkham Knight on Steam. I mean, I don't have a console, so I couldn't buy it on there. But I was going to buy Batman Arkham Knight because I loved the first three, maybe? I don't know how many. I loved the previous Batman games in the Arkham universe. It was really great. And I almost bought it, and then I was reading the reviews, and the reviews were like, it's such garbage on the PC, don't do it. And I was like really glad that those reviews existed to stop me from losing $60. I mean, for consoles, I think this is a bigger deal than it is for PC players, because PC players can easily return games on Steam very quickly. You can play a game, it runs like crap, you can turn around and return it to Steam, you get your money back within like 48 hours. And I've returned multiple games to Steam, probably 2 games, maybe 3. I've returned to Steam, and I've gotten my money back every time, and I wouldn't try and do that for a game that I've played a significant portion of. But on a console, you buy a game, you're stuck with it. You can't take it back to GameStop. They won't take it. You are stuck with that game. And it makes reviews way more important when you're talking about a console than it does on the PC. All right, let's move on to, we had a very dour, horrible news story that we just read. Now we've got something that's a little more uplifting and awesome. Why don't you tell us about it, Zap?
Well, we're sticking with the Steam stuff. Valve tightens its restrictions on Steam store screenshots. Hello, this is great news. Welcome to the 21st century, Valve. You made my day when I read this, and I think this comes off the back of a game that was released earlier this year. I shall not mention the name because it's going to be talked about later. A lot of that, I think this is to do with a lot of how games have been going lately. So basically, this doesn't mean the end of bullshots, but it does mean that you'll see more real screenshots of and less art representation. So basically, if you're not sure what's going on, Valve have basically said that game developers now have to post more in-game screenshots so we, the consumer, can see what we're getting from an in-game standpoint. If you don't know how Steam works, and you're not sure what I'm talking about, because you might be generally just a console gamer, but even the PlayStation Store does this. You click on your game, and you go to Steam, PlayStation Store, Microsoft Store, whatever, and it'll bring up a load of screenshots of your game. And sometimes it has some video footage, which can be not in-game footage or anything like that. It can be a trailer, in-game, or a CGI trailer of the game. And what you have a lot of is art representation, as I said, CGI trailers. And what Valve are saying is, no, they want more in-game representation. They want their consumer to see exactly what they're getting, which, me personally, I think this is great. I think this is bang on. This is what we need. We're just talking about buying games. I'm going to spend £40 on a game. I want to click through the screenshots, and I want to see what I'm getting. I want to make sure that that game looks exactly how they're describing. I want to make sure that it looks that good. Now, I know there can be some tampering and stuff like this, but I hope the developers play ball with this and they actually go down the road of giving us a real representation of the game, of the game that they're developing. Your thoughts, Run Jump?
I think this is fantastic, and I want to give the guys over at Valve a high five for doing this. They've been really, I mean, there's been times where they've screwed up, without a doubt, and even in recent years. But I think that Valve has been doing a lot of things that are really pro-consumer as well. Like they're basic. I mean, I would say that they are the elephant in the room when it came to the returns. As soon as they started doing the returns, a lot more companies started allowing digital returns as well, which is not something that you've ever been able to do before. I'm not going to go into the whole story about it. We've talked about it on previous podcasts, why the return policies are really weird. It all has to do with the late 80s and Nintendo and Target, and it's really interesting, but we're not going to talk about it right now. So Valve went through and they made that change, which I applaud them for. Now, this change I like for two reasons. There's something else. First off, I can't stand it when I go to look at a game and I can't find a single screenshot of the actual game. It's all concept art and nonsense like that, that while looks really cool, doesn't tell me what the game is like. Another reason that I like this story is that they've got a thing in here to flag appropriate screenshots. So it says where it says, if you have a game that contains mature content, please indicate which of your screenshots, if any, are appropriate for a broader audience. I think that's awesome. As a guy who has a son who's 8 years old, who has a Steam account, like right now it's locked up, so he cannot get on the Steam store unless I log in. But if he were to sit down at my computer and I had like the family mode on, and he goes to look at the Steam store, he should only see things that are appropriate for him. And I really like the idea where developers can say, all right, this screenshot here, I've got it on screen right now. This screenshot is suitable for all ages. So you can actually, like, Steam knows, all right, well, when you got an 8-year-old kid or a 10-year-old kid or whatever looking at this, it's going to show an appropriate screenshot for that age. And if Zap wants to look at one of his disgusting games where they're chopping people up, which you always do, you are always doing those Ninja Gaiden style chop people up games, you sicko.
It's in my blood, sorry.
I know. He gets to see the gore and stuff that he wants to see. I think that this is a fantastic change all around, and hopefully, I don't have a console, so what's it like on PlayStation or Xbox? I mean, I know that you don't have an Xbox, you've got a PlayStation. What's it like there?
It's pretty much the same. The PlayStation stores had a major overhaul in it last couple of months ago, or maybe a month ago or so. Total UI overhaul and stuff. It's clean and crisp, but they need to bring something like this in because you get the same stuff. You can go through a game like FIFA if you wish, and you can see all the concept art, then you can see all the actual players. And so, if Valve are going to lead the charge, and there's been some excellent points in chat which I'm going to read out in a sec. If Valve are leading the charge on this, I can see that other Origin, Xbox Store, Microsoft Store, the PlayStation Store, Uplay. God, how many launchers are there? There's Bethesda apparently got one as well. But anyway, Twitch launcher, yeah. Let's keep going. Let's just change the podcast to name the launcher. So all these guys, these companies are developing these ways you can buy. They have Blizzard, forgot that one, and they've got to give that consumer one, the real stuff, the real images, and two, the actual flagging the appropriate images for the right age group is an amazing idea. The guys in chat are saying that Snow Goes Ham again says this change will be very interesting for early access games which have concept art of the final product. That's a really good point, because early access on Steam is one of the biggest. Steam is probably Steam's or Valve's biggest income, if you like. I mean, the amount of early access games, you click through it and there are millions. There is one game, 7 Days to Die, has been in the early access since 2013. That needs to be out of early access. You know, Eskimo Princess raised a point about everyone praising Valve, and Valve sitting there like, lawyers made us do this. Oh, I mean, totally our idea. Whether the lawyers made them do it or not, I still think it's a great idea. I think that this is a way forward, and again, it's very consumer friendly. Early access, I think, will have to really jump on this, and they've got to learn that they can't just give the odd screenshot and then a load of concept art. This has got to be, it's good for the consumer. So yeah.
Yeah, and not only just talking about screenshots in general. I mean, think about what you see at E3, and then what you actually see when you get to play the game. This is something else that needs to go out to the rest of the industry, where when I watched them unveil a game at E3, that game had better look the way that it looks in that announcement trailer, or I just feel like they're getting ripped off, and we're getting ripped off, and there's a lot of times when you're watching this and it'll say in little tiny words on the bottom, rendered in engine. Well, that doesn't mean in-game footage. If it was in-game footage, they would say in-game footage. Instead, they're saying rendered in engine. Well, maybe they only rendered what they knew that the camera would see, and they didn't render anything outside that area so that they could increase the amount of stuff that's on the screen. I don't know. We are going to take a quick 1 or 2 minute break, and we will be right back. So you guys stick around. Sorry about that. I'm back.
Hello.
All right. My son just had a question for me. All right. Where were we? So we talked about... Oh, okay. You mentioned other launchers. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
No, that's it. That's pretty much it. I think Valve are doing a good thing. I agree with your E3 comment. There's so much we could talk about this. That could be its whole section on its own. So many games that you see at E3, and so much fake footage. I could think of many games, not mention the obvious game, the elephant in the room that everyone is talking about in chat at the minute, but I can mention many games, even developed by Ubisoft and other game companies that have been out, that you looked at E3 and went, wow, this looks amazing. Got the game, looks terrible. So no, that's pretty much all I've got to say on the matter. So let's go.
Well, you mentioned other launchers, and Origin being one of those. That's the next story on the list. This is on a Reddit post, and EA and Origin bans an entire country from the Origin platform. So I'm just gonna read like the bullet points from this story. Whoops, I just hit the wrong button. Okay, there we go. So it says, oh no, that's not it. Hold on, I closed something. There we go. All right, it says, I live in Myanmar, and I own about 20 games on Origin. I've spent hundreds of dollars on the platform. I've bought the full editions of all the Battlefield games up to this point with their season passes. I was trying to log on to Origin a few days ago and got a bizarre access denied message. The guy Googled it, and he found out that Origin is no longer available in Myanmar. So basically... EA, originally it seemed like they were blaming this on complying with U.S. sanctions against Myanmar, which is really strange because this happened. Let's see. This happened 2 days ago. Or no, this happened 3 days ago. Okay? The U.S. sanctions against Myanmar were lifted on October 7th. So this ban hammer that went out happened after the sanctions were repealed against Myanmar. Now we've got a new a new response from Origin. It's called, I guess, Origin Champion, which is somebody who works there. It says, would the Origin 10 update U.S. laws, which is where EA is based, force them to block certain countries? Unfortunately, you live in one of the countries. I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do here to allow you access again. They did not offer a refund to the people who are affected by this. So you bought this game. A law in the country of the publisher of said game has changed, and now you no longer own that game. That is really scary. They haven't even apologized to the player base, and there's this a Reddit user named EA Alex who works at EA. He says this, and this is what they say. Hey all, the short answer here is this occurred due to a U.S. government trade embargo on Myanmar in accordance with UN law, or U.S. law. Ooh, Eskimo Princess must love this because this is a law thing. EA is legally required to restrict online services to residents of countries that are embargoed. This isn't an EA-specific issue. It's an issue that impacts all companies offering services that are covered by trade embargoes. Although apparently this has not affected them on Steam or other platforms, only Origin. And then they said, as the OP, that means original poster, as the original poster has noted, the embargo on Myanmar appears to have been lifted earlier this month. Accordingly, EA is internally reviewing the situation and looking into whether and when the service can be restored to Myanmar residents. So, and then it says it is unclear to me whether we can do anything for the residents of other countries that are still similarly embargoed, but I'll bring the topic up for discussion internally. My God, what a disaster. I mean, all EA had to do is turn around and say, you know what, guys, I'm sorry. Here's your money back. There's nothing that we can do about it. And I understand there's nothing that they can do about it. If the law in the country that they're based in says you cannot operate in this country, then guess what? You have to abide by that law, especially for a publicly traded company. But for the PR's sake, offer a refund to the people who are getting screwed. Oh, I'm mad about this. Zap, I'm mad. How do you feel?
Okay, guys, Runjump's mad. So let me take over for a minute because I think this story is hilarious on the scale of EA. You look like dimwits. Seriously, when I read this, if anybody doesn't know, Myanmar's in Burma. Burma is I believe, the country in question. So Myanmar's a place in Burma. And yeah, so, wow. I mean, this is... I was literally laughing through the whole story because EA, what are you doing? I mean, EA, I've praised you multiple times on this podcast for some of the stuff that you've released and done, and this just puts you right back down in the sewers where you obviously belong. Give the guys a refund, make sure that, and you know, do it. Yes, Runjump makes a very good point. Because they're a traded company, you know, a public traded company, they have to abide by these, you know, there are laws there in place. Okay, so fair enough. Abide by those laws. But offer some kind of refund. Now, this does bring a very good point, and you beat me to this story, actually, at Runjump, when I saw the show notes. It's digital game license. We spoke last week that you said you liked the digital games, and I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I love digital games.
Yeah, so for me personally, now this doesn't solve what I'm about to say because a lot of games these days, you go into your local GameStop, you go into a local game or a local game shop that sells games, and usually PC games just come with a code. You plug that code into Steam. So would my point is, if they had the game on disc, would it solve the problem? Probably not, because a lot of it is, as I just said, is code based. It's digital games. That scares me a little bit about digital games and how the ownership isn't quite ours, because as we've just seen, Myanmar's just lost. The guys who play in these areas have just lost hundreds of dollars worth of gaming, and the guy clearly states that he's bought all the Battlefields to this point, their season passes, and let me tell you now, this is not cheap. Battlefield from the start, depending on what edition of Battlefield he bought, would have been $60 for the base, another $40 for the season pass. So we're at $100, and there's probably on Origin 3 copies of Battlefields. So we're talking $300 plus the DLCs and everything else, So that's a lot of money for one person. And when you put your money down on a product, that's yours. That's yours. That's your. So I really do. I genuinely feel sorry for these guys, because they've bought these games and they can't play them, even though they've paid the money.
Well,
so EA,
just so you know, I don't know that that's necessarily true with the discs. I think even when you buy the discs, you're just buying a license to play the game. So I think that can still be yanked away if they want as well.
In more of these day and age, I've got old games in my drawers, like the original Dawn of War is actually a game where I can play it off the disc.
Right, and old games, yes, you own the right to play that game. New games, if I go into GameStop today, and
you'll just get a code.
Well, even if I'm just getting a code, I'm buying a license to play the game, and I don't actually own the game. And they can go on to my Xbox or my PlayStation, and they can say, I'm turning off the ability to play this game, just like they did with it was a Kojima thing with Norman Reedus, scary game.
It was the Silent Hill.
Yes.
Oh, dear Lord.
It was just a demo, basically. It was a Silent Hill demo, horror game, and they went on there and they said, "Well, we're taking this off of here." And right now, you're just buying a license. So, no matter how you're buying games these days, you're just buying a license to play the game. You're not an owner of the new Skyrim game.
No, that was the point I was more getting. I said I very much brushed past that, and with the old games, yes, you do buy that game and you own the rights to that game, and that's how I feel sorry for them. I understand. So goes Ham, and Kodiak Moorwolf says PT. The game that we were just talking about was PT. Now I know of whether they've connected to you. If you bought PT or if you downloaded PT onto your PlayStation, and I know this for a fact, and if you disconnected from the internet and no longer have your PlayStation connected to the internet, which means you lose pretty much 90% of the console, you can keep PT. Right. As soon as you log connected to the internet, Sony removes it automatically.
Mm-hmm. Which is why it was selling for a PS4 with PT, or was it a 3?
It was PS4. It was PS4.
A PS4 with PT on it was selling for ridiculous amounts of money on eBay because it was the only way to get it. And if you went online with it, would be erased. That's what I read as well. I don't personally know, but.
But this thing, I completely agree with you. I think that EA need to offer some kind of refund or have some kind of workaround. It's an absolute mess from a PR standpoint. And I know I was laughing through the whole story because I think it just makes EA look stupid. But the bottom line is, there's a very serious message that that these poor people who literally have done probably nothing wrong to the US who play these games are getting smacked because there is obviously things going on between more political than that they're involved with. So I generally do feel sorry for them. I really do, and I hope there is a way around them. And EA, please, if you listen to this podcast, please offer them a refund. Give them something. Do something out of the goodness of your heart. Don't just take their money because it makes you look scummy.
It does. Although, and I don't know all the facts. I'm not a lawyer, but Snow Goes Ham in chat he does say that maybe they aren't allowed to offer refunds if it's an international sale or something like that. I personally don't know if that's true or if that's false, but either way, I'm sure that they could find some way to make it right, and they haven't seen. It doesn't seem like they're making any effort at all to make this right. Let's. So anyway, I'm gonna give these guys the big you lose.
You get nothing. You lose.
Seriously,
Good day,
sort it
sir.
out.
I'm gonna give them the big you lose because this story is the one that ticked me off more than anything else today. Let's take a look at the next story on the list. What do you got, man?
This one's going to be close to your heart because the EU, no, that's the European Union. That's a different story.
That's
I
close to
won't
your
do
heart.
that.
Well, until
That's-
you leave.
Yeah, that's next year. Anyway, that's something we don't want to discuss.
Yeah.
The Wii U goes out of production this week.
Yeah.
That's it for Wii U. It's everyone press F in chat for pay your respects to the
Press
Wii
F.
U. Press F in chat. The Wii U is done. That's it. It's
Well,
game over.
Honestly, will anybody notice that
No,
that
I'm
thing
gonna be
only
honest.
sold 16 million? I think it sold on total 16 million units of the Wii U were sold. So I don't know that anybody would notice if they go out of production.
It's for me, it's a real sad story of a console that could have been something great. This is the thing, I think in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been some consoles that could have been something great and just never quite met the mark. And the other one is a handheld console, the Vita. I mean, I've bashed that Vita so much on this podcast because I love it. I think it's a great console. I think it's one of Sony's best piece of work in recent history. And the Wii U is probably one of Nintendo's, that was their kind of push. But at the same time, we spoke about it the other week. They called it the Wii U, and everyone was like, "Well, this doesn't look like a Wii. What are you doing, Nintendo? Where is this going?" And it says for itself how many units it sold and shifted. It's a real sad state. I played on a Wii U in my local game. It's a good console. It's a good fun console, and the games look amazing. I never really got around to buying one because the games just didn't jump out to me. But I really am sad that it's time to close the shutters on the Wii U. I think it's a sad time.
Yeah. Just real quick, the Wii U, it came out. People were confused. Is it an accessory? Is it a new console? Nintendo's marketing strategy was horrible, and nobody really knew what was going on. They didn't have a lot of first-party games released when the console came out, so that meant that not a lot of people went out and bought it, and because not a lot of people went out and bought it, third-party development ceased, and nobody ended up buying it because there were no games for it. Then Nintendo went into hardcore mode, and they made some fantastic games. Some of the best Nintendo games that I have ever played were on the Wii U. And it's a shame because nobody played them. Real quick before we move on to the next story, though, there is an update. Polygon talked to Nintendo, and a rep of Nintendo told Polygon that the company has nothing to announce at this time. And this is the same thing that they said last month. But the Wii U consoles would become harder to find. So it doesn't seem like we know for sure that they're halting production. Apparently, there's a Japanese site called IT Media. They're citing a Nintendo spokesperson who actually said, no, it's going to keep selling until 2018, that's bananas to me.
What? Why? You've got a new console coming out next year. Nintendo, just concentrate your efforts on one damn console.
Yeah, I agree that that's what they should do, especially because that one console did so poorly. So they need to transfer it forward to the Switch. PlayStation did this same thing when the PS2 came out. The PS1 was on sale for a really long time, and then they did the same thing when the PlayStation 3 came out, you could buy a PlayStation 2 for like 12 years. Like,
same with the PS3 and PS4.
right, exactly. So Nintendo, even if they keep it in production and they lower the price, like maybe they sell it for, I mean, gosh, I think you could probably buy a Wii a year ago for like $49. You know, I mean, that's a good way to make some money if you're, as long as it's not interfering with other stuff. I don't know. I'll definitely be talking more about this on Switchcraft, which is the Nintendo-focused podcast that I do. But yeah, it's very. I wonder if they're cutting ties and moving on, or if they're not. I think that they should, though.
Yeah. But the thing is, as well, is developers. I mean, developers, when the PS4 and the Xbox One dropped, developers said that they would be still supporting the previous generation of console. You know, and that's the biggest, I think, one of the biggest kind of things. If the developer says, and we saw it with Battlefield 4, we saw it with a couple of FIFA games, FIFA 15, FIFA 16, released on the PS4 and the previous console. So developers were still supporting that previous console. I can't see developers supporting the Wii U because it just sunk. You know, and if developers are getting on this Switch hype train, I can see developers going, no, we want to support the Switch, not the Wii U.
Right.
So, you know, that's going to be a big thing, I think.
I agree, and it also depends on how easy is it to port games one way or the other. You know, that's another question. We don't know anything about that. But I think that they should just cut ties and move on. I also think that they should cut ties, and a lot of people are going to get out their pitchforks for this one. I think that they should cut ties on the 3DS.
Whoa!
I know.
Run, jump!
And I love my 3DS, but Nintendo needs to focus on one system, and only one system. Because while I love my 3DS, there's a lot of people out there that they don't want to buy a 3DS and a Switch. They don't want to have both. All right? They want to have one thing to play all of their games on. So just put all your stuff on one console and move on. That's how I look at it. And a lot of people disagree with me.
I would just check your windows to make sure there's not an angry mob with pitchforks outside.
Well,
seriously, I think, you know, that's risky business.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that people disagree with me because on my podcast for Switchcraft, I made a survey and I posted the survey, and I got 3,000 people responded to this survey, and a very high percentage of the people who responded said they did not want Nintendo to cut ties with the Switch. So I know that I'm in the minority here, or not Switch, but the 3DS.
Well, cut ties already.
Snow Goes Ham says something interesting in chat, and then we're going to move on from the story because I don't want to bog too much down in Nintendo stuff. He says, Nintendo has said that the Switch won't replace the 3DS. I do want to point you to when Nintendo released the Nintendo DS. I don't remember what year that was, but they specifically said this is not a replacement for the Game Boy. The Game Boy is going to stick around. The GameCube is going to stick around, and now we've got the Nintendo DS as our third pillar. And as soon as that took off, Nintendo said, screw that noise, and they dropped GBA like a bad habit. All right, and they really did. So them saying that Nintendo saying that the Switch won't replace the 3DS, I take that with a huge, massive grain of salt, a block of salt, like probably the size of my head. Because if the Switch takes off, you're not going to see updates to the 3DS. That's how I look at it. Anyway, go ahead.
We better move on before chat gets ugly.
That's true. That's true. All right, if you guys want to hear me talk more about the Nintendo stuff, check out Switchcraft, and there'll be a link in the in chat. Is this next story my story? It is my story. Valve lost their keys. This isn't. I'm not mad at Valve for this. This made me laugh. So Valve had a Steam sale, which I love Steam sales. That's how I get most of my games. They had They had Splinter Cell series at 75% off, including the game Splinter Cell Blacklist, which is, I guess, the newest version of Splinter Cell. It's not my kind of game, but they ran out of keys for it. They sold it at 75% off, and they didn't have enough keys to give you, so you buy the game, and then they're like, sorry, we don't have any keys. Like, really? It's like I go into a car dealership and I buy a car and they're like, come back tomorrow. I'm like, no, not come back to... Well, actually, that kind of happens. That does happen. You go to a car dealership, you can't drive it out that day. You got to sign paperwork.
That's like going into a butcher shop and saying, I want steak. And they go, no, sorry, come back tomorrow. I haven't got any steak today.
Yeah.
It's just pointless.
But I'll hold on to your money.
Yeah, that's it. I'll take your money, though. Let me have your money now.
Yeah, so they just didn't have enough game keys, and so they still took people's money, though. And it just made me laugh. I mean, can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Sorry. Wow, you're amazing. Oh.
Well, I mean, Kodiak Moonwolf in chat says, hang on, how can Steam run out of keys? There's only so many strings of letters and numbers that they can put together, and they ran out of keys for that game, so they had to wait for more to be, like, they had to wait for some to be released so that they could get more. And so they kept people's... They should have said, you know what, thanks so much for trying to buy my game. We're going to give you a rain check, and if you want to come back tomorrow, we'll sell it to you when we've got a key. But we don't want to take your money and not give you anything. That would have been a much better way to do it. Oh, I broke poor Zap. He's crying now. Oh, it's going to be okay, buddy.
Oh, my God. Oh. I don't think I can speak. That's hilarious. So in this podcast, not only have we praised Valve for their ingenuity, they're just laughing stocks now. I nearly bought the Splinter Cell series. Seriously, I nearly bought this because I love Splinter Cell. I'm a massive fan of the series, and at the time I had a friend of mine who played it on Xbox, and I was a Metal Gear fan, and they had a big Metal Gear versus Splinter Cell kind of
like a rivalry.
Yeah, the rivalry was huge, and I was like, "No, Metal Gear is the king. Splinter Cell sucks." And I played Splinter Cell. I was like, "Wow, this is amazing."
Splinter Cell's the one where the guy's got the little 3 green things, right?
Yeah. He looks like he's got like 3 dots here.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
It's a brilliant game.
Yeah. I played one of them. I don't remember which one, and I really liked it. And I never played any of the other ones because most of the time I don't like stealth games.
I saw this on sale. I was like, "Oh man, this looks really cool." So I put a load in my basket and then kind of forgot about it. I do that sometimes. Also, I don't know about you. I just stick it in the basket. And I was like, "I'll come back to it later." And I was doing some other bits and pieces, and then I completely forgot. I'm glad I did forget because I never got a copy. Wow, seriously, did the guy who sits there and makes your keys, type the keys into an algorithm on the computer, and the algorithm just goes, "Sorry, the hamster's dead. We've got no way of doing these keys." That's the most hilarious, stupid. But to take people's money, again, it goes back to EA with the whole locking out a country. You're just as bad as each other. It is like coming into my shop. If people didn't chat, then I'm a butcher. And it is like saying, "Oh, I want some rump steak or ribeye steak." Okay, how much would you like? "Oh, I'd like 2 8-ounce steaks, please." "Oh, I haven't got any, but I'll take your money for it because I can work out how much they'll cost." I don't do that. That's
it's ridiculous.
Stupid. Come on, Valve. This is the 21st century. You can't do that. It should have had a notice on there, saying. But I mean, it would have been a notice to read this. Sorry, sold out of keys. Come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it would have made for a better story.
Yeah.
And for us not to go, "Seriously, Valve, you're just scum." That's as simple as that. Highlight of the word that is, for me, of this podcast is scum, because there's 2 companies so far that are scum.
I honestly, I don't want to be an apologist for Valve, but I honestly think that this is something that they're just like, it kind of just happened, and they're like, wait, like there's probably some guy in a room, or Gabe Newell is sitting in a room, and like Jeff the intern walks in, and he's like, Mr. Newell, and he's like, yeah, what do you want, kid? He's like, we don't have enough keys for Splinter Cell. He's like, what are you talking about? That's impossible. And meanwhile, sales are happening. They just keep selling stuff while this intern is trying to convince Gabe Newell that they ran out of keys. I don't know. Zen says,
Can you imagine?
Go ahead.
Can you imagine the board meeting the next day when they realised they ran out of keys? There's like 12 of them sitting around a room going, yeah, so what's our figures on the stock markets? Well, this game sold well. We sold lots of Splinter Cell, but we had no keys to give out. I mean, it's just like you literally say that sentence slowly. Splinter Cell, no keys to give out. It's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in. I can't stop. That's hilarious.
Well, Zen says he gives us he's given you an opportunity to make a segue. I don't know if you saw it, or not a segue. Is it a segue? Yeah, a segue.
I think I missed it.
Oh, you missed it. Well, he said that we broke Zap, and he says, quick, someone bring up No Man's Sky.
Oh, right, yeah. So are we moving on to the next story? Because
Yeah, let's
guess
move
what?
on.
It's No Man's Sky time. Oh, God. The days for this to come back in the podcast. Yes. So here we go. No Man's Sky. Now, I will give everyone a little bit of background. If you've been living under a rock or haven't listened to the podcast, where have you been for one? No Man's Sky. Well, it's like a love child that you want to put into a bin. I don't condone that, by the way. So, No Man's Sky, a quick, brief outline. I'm not going to get into all the details about this because it's one of the sorriest states in gaming history. And it's a real shame that this company, this game, has literally just fell from grace so hard. And so I feel sorry for him. So No Man's Sky was announced in 2013 at E3, and again, a whole podcast. This is really good because, we spoke about on this podcast about how we want to see more realism from the in-games and all this sort of stuff, because all of this sort, and this is the perfect game to bring that example. No Man's Sky released this year, and it was a flop. The first 3 hours of gameplay were amazing, and then you realise that it was just repeating the same thing over and again, and nothing that they promised was in the game. It has now a record that it has the worst rating on Steam, and that's kind of the outline of No Man's Sky. Well, this week, No Man's Sky claims that it was hacked, that its Twitter account and Sean Murray are claiming. Now, Sean Murray is the CEO of and the developer of No Man's Sky and Hello Games. Hello Games, other games come in forms of Joe Danger, which I've played on my mobile. It's a great game. Hello Games, stick to those sort of games. So basically, the tweet that was given out by Hello Games was No Man's Sky was a mistake.
And this is, they had a tweet
Yep.
widget on their webpage, so that gets put right on the webpage.
Bingo. So this was to everyone, and it comes out with No Man's Sky was a mistake. And it's like, wow, okay, so is this Hello Games tweeting? Or is this Sean Murray tweeting? Or is this, has it been hacked? Or is it a disgruntled employee? Now, most companies would literally go, it's a hack. We're hacked. We've been hacked. We've covered it up. Back to work. Sean Murray, on the other hand, kind of gets a little bit strange with it. And he basically starts saying things like, I'm trying to find all of the stuff that he did.
Well,
No
I can
Man's
see
Sky.
right here what he said. He said, he came out and said server hacked. We're binging Mr. Robot episodes as quickly as we can, looking for answers. Which is a hilarious thing to say if you watch Mr. Robot.
Yes, but there was something else that he put. He actually, Hello Games, are you still hacked and stuff? Now, I think, you're reading this, and it's like, that sounds really hilarious, but at the same time, your subreddit has like over 100,000 people subscribed to it, and they've had nothing, not even an ounce of information about when No Man's Sky is going to be either fixed or the content's going to be put into the game. You know, answers about the game, and you come out with stuff like this. Now, I personally think quite possibly this was a disgruntled employee. I'm not saying it was. I have no proof. A disgruntled employee basically stated, you know, I think that maybe maybe they were hacked. But for a company that's had complete radio silence since like August, and we've had a tweet from a composer of No Man's Sky saying that they are working on it, and that's the only radio message from. So I think this is, again, it's just another pile on the poo cake that is Hello Games, and it's just continuously getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just want to hear something from those guys saying, look, we are doing something about it, or there is something going on, or just come out and say something. Everyone knows that the game isn't what it was supposed to be. Are you doing something? Is there a big patch coming? Give us something. Don't keep being silent, and certainly do something about your security, because if you were hacked, my God.
Yeah. He did come out and say if anything was a mistake, it was using LinkedIn without two-factor authentication. I'm going to use this story as an opportunity just to tell everybody out there, if you have the opportunity to use two-factor authentication for anything that you have, absolutely use two-factor authentication. I myself got a text message, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and it was for my Microsoft account, which isn't something that I actually use, but I got a text message saying somebody had logged in to my Microsoft account from some weird place, and I was like, all right, well, I'm glad that I have, and here's the problem, is I used the same password for a bunch of other stuff, and I was like, all right, well, immediately I got out of bed. My wife was like, what are you doing? And I ran out into the office, and I started going through everything that I did, and I changed my password. Luckily, all of the important stuff that I have has two-factor authentication. So I use the app called Authy, which basically gives me a little code. When I go to log into something, I bring up Authy. It gives me a little code. I type that in. You need the code that changes every 30 seconds and your password in order to log into your system. The fact that an actual company who makes... This is a technology company. The idea that they don't know enough that you should have two-factor authentication is ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Whether or not this is a disgruntled employee or if somebody hacked them, there's no way that we're ever going to know. I think that is, that's a little less important there. They also had sent, there was also an email that was sent as well. And the email says, No Man's Sky was a mistake. I've contacted you because the silence from Hello Games has been unwarranted and unprofessional. And then they go on to talk more about this. I'm going to drop a link in the chat, and if you're just listening to the show afterwards, there's going to be a link in the show notes, so you can check this out as well. I think to get back... What's up?
Snow Goes Ham puts in chat, Hello Games forgot to use two-factor authentication just like they forgot to add actual content to No Man's Sky.
A lot of people are mad at these guys at Hello Games for shipping what everybody has said is a disaster of a game. I think that their best course of action right now is transparency. When you've ticked off the internet, you need to be as transparent as possible. You just lay all your cards out there. I think what they should do, and this would get them a lot of credit, and I don't know if you ever paid attention to EverQuest Next's development. Did you?
No, I didn't.
All right, so EverQuest 1, awesome game, got ruined by Sony. EverQuest 2, a lot of people liked it. It wasn't really for me. Then they started working on EverQuest Next. Okay? EverQuest Next, they were doing all of their development right out in the open. They were showing everybody everything that they were doing all the time. And it was awesome. Now, the game eventually got canceled because this company sold this property to that company, and it's not really important what happened there. Although if you're interested in it, definitely Google it. It's an interesting story. But they were doing all of their development right out in the open so that everybody could see what was going on, warts and all. And I think that if Hello Games was doing that right now with No Man's Sky and just showing, this is what we're doing to fix it. They don't have to do what the people tell them to do, but they just have to show the people what it is that they're doing. I think that would get them a lot of pressure off them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they need to come out and just be clear what's going on. I think that their credibility as a game developer is burnt. They after such a flop as No Man's Sky, I think there is only one way to come back, and it is to say, look, as you just said, this is what it is, And now I will say this, and I might be I don't think I'm in a minority when I say this, because I know you haven't played No Man's Sky Run Jump, but if they'd come out and said this is an indie developed game, which it was in the beginning, but this is an indie game and it's $20, and this is what I think people would have gone, okay, not a problem. Because you could have got away with a couple of things there. You could have developed it. You wouldn't have had that kind of big kind of companies behind it, and at AAA, because it was marketed as a AAA game. It was released for AAA money. But if it was released at an indie price, I think people would have gone, okay, it was a $20 game. Okay, I got like 20 hours out of it. Fair enough. And you wouldn't have so much kind of hate for it. But because you're paying $60 and so if it's a AAA game, you're comparing it to the Call of Duties, the Battlefields, the FIFAs, all these games that come out that are feature-rich, all this kind of thing. I probably just mentioned the worst AAA titles out there because of other things that go on inside those games. But anyway, they're still AAA titles. And I think I really do feel sorry for Hello Games and just come out and say it. Just come out and give the fans of your game, your company, exactly what they want, and it's just some news, some information. That's all they want.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to the lightning round. We are. I didn't actually set up a timer like I said I was going to. I forgot to. But that's okay. I'm going to set one up on my phone right now. We are limited to, I'll read the story, and we are limited to 1 minute per story. How's that sound? That sound okay to you?
Sounds good.
All right. So, this story is really not much to talk about, actually. This will be an easy one to do. Koji Igarashi. Do you know who he is?
No. I'm going to say yes, but no.
Okay. Koji Igarashi, he is the guy who he was assistant developer on Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which a lot of people say is like one of the best Castlevania games. And he is working on Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. And there's just there's an interview at this YouTube channel called Quit Stalling. And they're interviewing him at the ESGS, which I forgot what that is. ESGS.
Esports and Gaming Summit.
Yeah, that. So they're interviewing him there, and it's about a half an hour, and I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I just wanted to share it with people. So 1 minute for your reaction.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm flicking through the YouTube channel, the YouTube interview, seeing some scary monster with what it can only be described as a very weird deformity in places where you don't. That's not good in your stomach. You want that kind of gotten rid of. Looks cool. Game looks really cool. I think if it comes out on the right platforms for me, I think I'll pick it up. That looks a really cool game.
Yeah, I can't remember what systems it's coming out for. I think it's coming out for PlayStation and Steam, but I'm not positive.
Well, that'll do me fine.
Yeah, does anybody out there know? We got 25 seconds. We can probably figure it out.
Hang on.
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is the name of the game. It was a Kickstarter game, actually.
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is coming out for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Wii U, PlayStation Vita, Microsoft Windows, Linux, Macintosh, and Macintosh operating
Holy
systems.
crackers.
So it's coming out on a lot of systems. There you go.
And there's our timer. And I can't shut it off. There we go. I couldn't shut off the timer. All right, so we'll move on from that one. What's next?
This is a follow-up to a story we spoke about the other week. Steam's DualShock 4 support is now in beta. Yes! Come on!
Oh, very cool.
Use my favourite controller. So, guys, if you didn't know, there's a couple of episodes ago, we spoke about the controllers and all this sort of stuff, and Steam were working with the guys over at Sony, I think it is, and got the DualShock working with the PC inside Steam's launcher. And do you know what? That's an amazing thing, because I mean, we spoke about it on the podcast, how many different types of controller there were, and our favourite, and and the Steam controller was featured heavy as well. And I was going to go out and get a Steam controller, but I won't bother now because my favourite controller is the PS4 controller, and I can use that in games that require me to use a controller. So this is really cool. So if you have a DualShock 4, which they're not cheap, by the way, they're about £50 in the UK, probably about $70 odd over in the funny money that you call it, and it's all in beta. So go out, give it a go, and yeah, I certainly will be. So I'll report back on how that is.
Right. Well, actually, I got the update for it this morning or yesterday morning. I'm not sure which, but it's actually live now.
Yes.
And so anybody can sign up for the Steam beta releases. You just click a checkbox in your settings, and it switches over to the new client. It'll re-download it, and it's really fast to switch back and forth. So you don't have to wait around to try it out. The one thing is do you have to buy the proprietary little USB stick or does it?
I don't know, because the DualShock 4 can be connected via a USB. So
okay.
as a wire. So I think that will make it wireless, which is obviously what the DS4 is meant to be. It's supposed to be a wireless controller,
which is really important because it has that gyroscope. Yeah,
of course. But I will be seeing if it can work with the USB cable.
All right, timer
I'm
went
finished.
off. Oh, R2 he is rough. All right. Well, that's actually. Oh, we have one more lightning round story. This is also yours. I came up short this week. What do you got?
Project Scorpio will support Xbox 360 backwards compatibility.
Hold on, there's an ad. I clicked on that website and there was a man screaming on it. Go ahead.
All right.
Project Scorpio.
Yeah, it will support backwards compatibility for the 360. Hello, Xbox. Hello, maybe selling the PS4 for Project Scorpio? Maybe. This is very cool. Yeah. But the reason being is the backwards compatibility is a very big thing to me. There's an Xbox game out there. I can't remember the name, but it was done by Square Enix. It's a very much like a Final Fantasy an RPG, JRPG. And it's on 360, and it's a 360 exclusive. Never came to any other console, never came to the PC, and I want to play that game. So Project Scorpio, if it's the right price and is good what it does, I could be switching over to the Xbox.
All right, so here, let me start our timer. So you switch. Okay, PS4 has no backwards compatibility at all. Xbox One is backwards compatible, and Sony has said we're not going to be shipping any backwards compatibility at all with our console because it doesn't support that kind of thing. We can't just force it in there. Xbox One has limited backwards compatibility with the 360, and now Project Scorpio also going to have that backwards compatibility. I find that really interesting. I think a lot of times people say that they want backwards compatibility, but then they don't play those games. I don't know if you're in that same boat or not.
If I had the option to play some of those games, because there was some seriously good games on the Xbox back in the day, I would play. I would play them, and I wish I could find Resonance of Fate. I think is one of the games, but no, The Last Remnant is the game that I want to play. It's so damn hard and so brutal, but so good at the same time.
Right.
And that put me towards getting a Project Scorpio.
And the timer went off, so this will be the last thing we say about this. I played that game. It was really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So now our next section is the game off. Last week, I haven't even looked at this. Last week, and for this particular section of the segment of the show, what happens is Zap and I both put forward a game that we want to say everybody should get a chance to play this game if you haven't, and then we let you guys vote on what game of the two is the winner. So let me just see the results here. And Zap destroyed me this week. Congratulations,
I think I might have cheated by bringing out the blue hedgehog, though. That was the unfair advantage of using.
You win. Perfect.
Yeah, you win. Perfect. So, yeah, 86% of people voted for Sonic the Hedgehog. I had Guacamelee. We don't know what each other has picked, so I'm going to bring up mine. And basically in this section we have like a couple minutes just to try and sell our game to everybody. This week I chose Alan Wake, which is a survival horror third-person shooter game that follows this writer around as he fights against the supernatural and tries to find his wife. It is a really well done game, and the thing about it that makes it incredibly unique is it's like you're watching a TV show. So you'll be playing along, and then you'll finish like a chapter in the story, and then that's a good place to stop. And then you pick up the controller the next time, and it says last time on Alan Wake, and it goes through just like when you're watching a TV show and they're trying to remind you what happened last week. They kind of do that in this. So they're like, last time on Alan Wake, and they kind of do a quick run through of everything that has happened so far, and it feels like you're watching a TV show. I didn't actually finish this game because my 360 save file got deleted, and I played this on the 360 originally, but it's also available on Steam. But my wife sat there and she watched me play through this game, this stuff that I did play, not the whole thing. But Alan Wake is fantastic, and if you haven't played it, you definitely should, especially with Halloween having just passed. If I had thought about this, I would have brought it out a couple weeks ago with Halloween upcoming, because it's a really good game. What did you pick this week?
Well, I picked another king. This is the king of open worlds. This is what started my open world genre, if you like. And I picked this week Grand Theft Auto 3. Yep, that's right. The king of open world games. The game that brings you a silent protagonist that says nothing at all, but lets you feel like an absolute badass when you're playing it. It's a great game. I don't really need to say too much, but this game was released in 2002. It was back in 2002, and it was one of the first 3D open world games for the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, up until this came out, weren't the Grand Theft Auto games top down?
It was all
right?
top down. Yeah. For me personally, I remember getting the old PlayStation magazines, and they did a massive article on Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 3, and going through this and was like, this is amazing. This looks incredible. An 18 rated game, and you could tell why. It was brutal. and it is still brutal to this day, but has one of the most fantastic stories, I think, for an open world game. And Rockstar, and this really had their foundations of how good they were for telling stories and making a really good game. And you look at the success of all the Grand Theft Autos from there on in. You know, Grand Theft Auto Vice City is amazing. I was torn between this and Vice City, because Vice City was set in the 80s and it's just an amazing game.
For me,
But
Vice City is way better, personally.
And that's what I was torn against. But this started that kind of, that run of open world games. And I don't think anything could have beaten that first time you jumped into a car and you were seeing, you were driving around, and, it was just a very cool game. So, yeah, my pick this week is Grand Theft Auto 3, and, yeah, let's do the vote.
All right. Yeah, well, I just posted the poll in chat so people can vote. And if you're listening to this, the poll will be in the show notes. Not only that, but both Zap and I are going to tweet it out so that you can find it if you follow us on Twitter. And let us know what you guys think. Should Grand Theft Auto 3 be the winner, or should Alan Wake be the winner? Spoilers, Alan Wake should be the winner.
Spoilers, Grand Theft Auto 3.
But if you had
Remember, I'm a
asked
butcher.
me, and I don't really like, I don't like Rockstar games. I don't like the way that they control. I put up with the controls for Vice City myself. I had a lot of fun with that game, but I think most of it was because the soundtrack to that game was so good. Like, you got in the car and you could tune it to radio stations and you could listen to 80s music, which I am a person who, I love music from the 80s, even the garbage, because that's when I was a kid, and that stuff just really resonates with me. I love 80s music, and that is the thing that put Grand Theft Auto Vice City over the top for me. I love that game, even though I hate the way Rockstar games control, and I know a lot of people won't agree with me there. The next thing... Oh, hold on. I just got a tweet. Oh, Zap just tweeted that out. Let me hit the retweets. There. I'll retweet it in just a second. The next section is wish listed. This week, basically, each week we put something from our wish list. Oh, my goodness. I messed up. We put something from our wish list on the show, just so that people kind of know what is it that what kind of games do you like, or it's maybe something kind of came up, and so sometimes it's a new game, sometimes it's an old game, but this week I put Final Fantasy VI on my wish list because I was watching a guy stream Final Fantasy VI, and I was like, oh man, that's one of the Final Fantasies that I don't have, and a lot of people say that it is the best Final Fantasy. So I had to add it to my wish list, even though I've played it probably once or twice. I've never gotten very far in it, and it's supposed to be a really good game that I just feel like I missed out on. So I added it to my wish list this week. There's not a whole lot for me to say about it. It's a Final Fantasy game. It's supposed to have a great story, and it definitely has great music in it. So what did you add to the wish list this week, Zap?
I added Grim Dark Legacy. This has just gone onto Steam, and I played this at EGX. It was also free to play for a while it was in beta, and I didn't realise it was going to as a pay to play model, if you like. And it follows. It's a tale of deep and dark exploration, survival, and bloodthirsty combat. Again, it's bloodthirsty combat is what it does it for me. In a medieval setting, from a ruthless band of Grimm, and you begin your journey. You hunt, craft, and slay hordes of Weezan in this cooperative roguelike survival game. So it's got roguelike, it's got hunting, crafting. It looks gorgeous. I mean, it really has got a fantastic art style, and this is something that really is on my wish list for those reasons. So yeah, Grim Dark Legacy is on there. I did play, like I said, I played a little bit of EGX. it's a really good game. It's really, 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 really good fun. And it is as difficult as any other roguelike out there, So yeah, it's worth a shot.
Does it have? Okay, it has partial controller support. It definitely looks like something that I would want to play with 2 sticks, rather than mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. They had at EGX. They had mouse and keyboard and controller. The controller was a lot easier.
Was it? Okay, that's good. And that's $14.
Yeah, that's not expensive. Or $10.99 here. And Abigail 13 in chat says it is based off a TV show. And that's the other thing I was supposed to say. Yes, this game is based off a TV show.
Oh, what's the TV show?
Grimm. Yeah, it's called Grimm. The TV show is Grimm.
What kind of show is it?
That I'm not sure of. So I'm gonna post a link in chat in a second. If Abigail may know, because she might watch it. But it is based off a TV show. This is the Wikipedia, because Wikipedia knows everything. In chat now. And that's season 1, so it's probably got spoilers in there, so be careful.
Oh, I won't click it then. Oh, it's
Fairy Tales. There you go.
Oh, okay. Maybe. I mean, my wife and I are trying to watch like 48 flipping shows, and if you listen to the podcast, you know that my TV was broken for like 3 weeks. So like we're way behind. So it's going to be tough for us to get caught up. We already have just washed our hands of 2 shows. We just said we like those shows, but we don't like them enough that we're going to keep watching them. So we just dropped them, and we're still behind on like 3 or 4 shows that we want to watch, and it's going to be hard enough for us to catch up. Maybe we'll watch Grimm in the future. I'm definitely going to add it to the list of things if you guys say it's good. But I think that's it for our show this week, isn't it?
It is. I don't think we've got anything. No more stories to add to that.
All right. So we didn't get any. Go ahead.
About the long play that we decided to.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Why don't you tell everybody about that?
So myself and Run Jump, we're obviously always trying to, keep the podcast as fresh as possible. We decided to cut the long play from the podcast, just mainly because we were either playing the same games or, we're saying the same things about games that we're playing. I think if we both play a game that's unique and is something we both haven't played before, then we'll probably mention it on the podcast going forward. But the long play itself is definitely going to be removed. Is not going to see light on the podcast at this point in time.
Yeah, because what it felt like to me is that I felt like I had to put something there every week, even if I really didn't have much to talk about. So Zap and I talked, and we were just like, let's get rid of it. And if we happen to play something that's awesome, we'll talk about it instead of forcing it every week. Plus, the show gets really long. Like downloading an hour-and-a-half podcast is something that people often don't do. My wife just walked in with like the scared, terrified look on her face. Is everything okay? Check you for spiders? Get out of my house. No. I don't see a spider on you, but I want a divorce. No, check you for spiders? Did you fight a spider? You touched a spider web? Then it's time for you to move out and find somebody else to live with. Get out of here with the spiders. I've got a spider thing. I don't like spiders. Burn the house down. We're moving. Can we come stay with you for a little while?
No, you've broken me too much tonight. Leave me alone.
He says no. No, there's no spiders. Ew.
And anyway, I'm not a fan of spiders myself either, so it's not look good.
Okay, listen to this. Somebody in chat, Eskimo Princess just added in chat a quote. People can type exclamation quote and get a random quote from the bot. It says, "I don't see any spider on you, but I want a divorce." All right. Anyway, that's it for the show this week. That's why the long play is gone. We didn't get any listener feedback this week. Please make sure that you guys, give us a little bit of feedback. The number one best way that you can support the show is to go give us a review on iTunes and Google Play. That is going to get us higher in the rankings. Maybe we would get on New and Noteworthy, things like that. So if you guys just give us a review, it doesn't have to be 4 stars. It's whatever you actually think. We want to hear what you guys think. Another way that you can give us feedback is by sending an email to runjumpstomp@gmail.com. That is something that we will read on the podcast. Or if you want your voice to be literally heard, you can give us a call at 260-RUN-JUMP. That's 260-786-5867, and leave us a voicemail. That voicemail, if it's short and we can understand what you're saying, we will play it on the show. I did get a call. I don't know who it was from earlier this week, and I could not understand anything that they were saying. It was like all garbled. So I'm not sure who you are, but feel free to call again when you've got like a good signal. Maybe not from, the channel, wherever you were, clearly you had no signal, so I couldn't understand what you were saying. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube at RunJumpStomp. Zap, where is it that people are going to be able to track down you if they want to buy some stuff? I was going to say if they want to buy some steaks and give you money for them, but you'll give it to them later. But you started talking.
I'll always put your steak on hold. Twitch and Twitter is Zap, and YouTube is JagoZap. That's me.
All right, that's it for us this week. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We will see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
It happened again. Oh, there we go. Oh, goodbye. You couldn't hear it, but my soundboard started skipping. It was going. I'm gonna leave it in so people can hear it because I said, "Oh no!" Oh, good show, man.
Yeah.